First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
And hello, everyone. This is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you very much for joining us today. Wherever you're watching, we do appreciate it. We're live streaming here from the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom, as we do every weekday starting around 1 p.m. and going throughout the afternoon. And don't forget to download that Fox 12 Oregon app, another great way to watch us live. But during this show, we get to have longer form conversations. And right now, with spring break on the way, depending on when you're watching, maybe you're already in it, but it is on the way for a number of different schools here in the Northwest. And with that does come some extra stress. Not the break part, but the part that's leading up with the term papers, everything else that's going on as students get ready to round out the end of the year. Maybe they're getting ready to graduate. There's a lot of outside influences, maybe just within school and the world in general, that can add some stress, and that can happen to everybody, but in particular for them. We want to talk about that today. We have Madison Harp from Youth Villages, Oregon, who's going to join us to talk about some different ways to help mitigate some of those issues, some things that parents can do to help out, and things students can do themselves. We go through a whole lot of that with this, and so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and play that for you right now.
So I'm a licensed clinical social worker, so an LCSW here in the state of Oregon. And I've worked with children and families involved in the system, in private practice, amongst various states. But I found my home here at Youth Villages. So I'm a program expert. So I do clinical consulting. So I help staff and cases and teams kind of figure out what's the next direction in helping a young person and their family.
And when we talk about Youth Villages, could you give everybody a little bit of an understanding of all the different work that the organization does?
So Youth Villages here in Oregon, it's a nationwide company, but in Oregon, we serve Salem, Portland, and Bend. And we have our program that's called Intercept, and it's an intensive in-home behavioral health based, but also family-based program for kids and families. Our number one goal is to help kids and families live successfully together, and whenever safely possible, keep them intact, to keep the family intact. We also have in the Portland metro area our ILP, which is independent living and LifeSet programs, and those are for youth transitioning out of foster care into adulthood.
So that's covering a lot of different bases right there.
Yeah, it is.
That's great. And working with all of these, kids and families in these different situations, let's talk about, what are some of the biggest stress points that they really have?
Yeah, definitely school. School is a huge part of our youth's lives. Unfortunately, it can cause a lot of family conflict sometimes, right? It can cause stress. School is the majority of where our kids get their socialization. That's where they meet their friends, their other supportive adults in their life. So it's a really big deal.
Yeah, and with all of those different factors coming into that, what are some different things that people can do to maybe mitigate some of those stressful things that could be going on?
Yeah, this time of the year is particularly stressful for our young people. And the why behind that is, I think we're all feeling it as adults ourselves, right? Is the weather is like, man, it's still winter. There's really no breaks to be like looking forward to coming up in terms of fun holidays. The magic of winter's worn off. The newness of the new year isn't really there at the beginning of the school years and the end of the year jitters. So it can feel like a lot of pressure. This is typically the time of the year where kids are starting to explore, am I going to make it to the next grade, right? Do I have enough credits? My state testing exams are starting to come up, and all that added pressure can add for a more stressful time for children and families.
And how can families go about, helping to manage some of those different stresses?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. Yeah, definitely. Having intentional time together, time management is a skill that I, as a grown person, sometimes struggle with, and that's okay. Yeah. And one thing you can do is helping instill some of that skill building in your youth. So I recently went out and I found this planner. I spent $5 on it, and it's just a weekly planner, and taking an intentional 30 minutes with your young person to make it a low stress, stress-free environment of, maybe you guys are sitting and having a favorite snack and kind of just planning out your week and really taking time to be mindful of, you have this practice on this day. I have to be work early this day. What are some solutions we can come up with to meet mine and your need?
Yeah, really looking at your own schedule, their schedule, and matching that up, but making that a priority.
Yeah. Another thing you can do when you're planning out is being intentional about self-care time. And sometimes that's easier said than done, but I think that when we're intentional about our time and we teach our youth to value that, it starts to become more natural. So if you see that your young person has a stacked week full of state testing exams, the school dance is coming up, we have to go to grandma's birthday on Sunday, whatever's going on, being sure you plan that intentional time for your young person to relax and unwind.
So again, making sure that you have that on the schedule. So it seems like a lot of it is, thinking this out ahead of time.
Yeah. Yeah. Being very intentional about what goes on. So there's not that big rush. And it's important to know, what's important to your young person. What's going to stress them out that week, right? Sometimes we know that they go to school and we know that they go to practice, but maybe there's something going on that day that is really big for them that if we're intentional about that time, we can be more proactive in being there for them.
And what are some of the best ways to engage? Sometimes they're not always forthcoming with some of the different things that are going on in their lives. Like, what are some good ways to I guess, encourage that engagement?
I think being able to identify with your young person, sometimes as parents, we're just like, well, we have a solution, right? You're tired, go to bed earlier.
Right.
You feel you have a stomach ache, well, eat less hot chips, right? And sometimes our youth aren't looking for a solution or advice. Sometimes they just want to feel validated. And so you can approach a conversation to, hey, I just want to listen. I'm not here. Do you want my advice or do you want me to just listen? And being able to validate, even if it doesn't feel like it's a valid thing, right? I'm guilty of that. Well, if you wouldn't spend so much time on that phone, maybe you wouldn't have a headache, right?
Right. Yeah.
Try to avoid statements like that and just saying, yeah, when you have a headache, that hurts and that's really hard. And thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah. And then maybe let them work through what some of those those reasons
9
are.
times out of 10, our young people are smart. They'll come up with their own solutions.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else that you think is really important for people to be thinking about this time of year?
Staying connected with your youth school. So another thing that you can do instead of pulling up their online portal, right, that we all know and love, and being like, oh man, you're failing math. What's up with that? I would encourage you to have you and your young person pulled up together and you guys can review it together. Have them explain what's going on in each class. Have them explain what's going well in each class. It's okay. I think allowing for shortfalls and allowing for sometimes what we see as like failures, right? Really, instead of trying to punish or consequence those away, we want to come to that understanding of what did we learn from it and what's our plan to do better next time. That can really help build that resiliency for our young people.
So it sounds like a lot of that is, doing face-to-face conversations, like having that actual interaction, whether that's with, the young person or going in for the teachers as well, but going in there to actually talk face to face.
Yeah, you should know who your young person's teachers are. If they offer any additional supports, if there is any things that they recommend that you could be doing on your own time at home if they're struggling with a particular class. I think a lot of the times I'm guilty of it too, right? Is we don't pull in those supports until it's already going bad. Having that connection with your children's teacher, knowing how to contact them, knowing what resources they have goes a long way when things do maybe fall apart. And maybe they won't, but that shows you're teaching your young person how to solve their own issues should they come across trouble.
Sounds like a lot of this is just being proactive.
Yeah, a lot of it is. And helping build the skills that we have as adults that help manage our lives in our young people. And that takes consistency too.
Yeah. All right. Anything else that you think is important?
No, just if you're a young person, if things don't improve, you notice that your young person is withdrawing from things that they maybe used to like to do, right? Or things that they used to be excited about seem like a burden to them, like they almost just want to stay in bed. It's important that if those persist for more than 2 weeks, and if your young person's having thoughts of death and dying, those could be signs, early signs of suicide, and it's important to get that young person assessed by their PCP or to start considering maybe a counselor or even youth villages.
Yeah, there we go. And for people who want to look into more about what Youth Villages does, could you let them know how to do that?
Yeah, I can share our contact and our website. Anyone within the community can send a referral. And whether you're a teacher or whether you want to self-refer as a parent, I can definitely drop our referral link down below.
Okay, great. All right, fantastic. Well, thank you very much, for having some time to join us today and to talk about this, all valuable information for everybody to pick up on and understand what's going on, at this time of year, and the pressures are there, but there are ways to proactively, as you were basically implying for a lot of that, is proactively, try to manage a lot of that and make sure that things are a lot better for all of them. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, again, that is Madison. And so the website is youthvillages.org. That is where you can go there and find some of that information that she was bringing up for that segment. And again, this is Fox 12 Now. We're live streaming here from the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom. We appreciate everybody who joins us. We are here every weekday, and we've got more coming up here throughout the afternoon. So whatever platform you're watching on, just know that right at 1:30, I'll be back with another segment. And if there's ever breaking news between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m., this is also the place to go. Again, wherever you're at, this is where we are live. So whether that's on YouTube, our website, kptv.com, the Fox 12 Oregon app, all places to find us, and then also watch these segments afterward as well. But that's it for now. We'll take a quick break. I'll talk to you soon. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.